episode 42 of the Strong Talk podcast. Cale Beck here, and in this episode I do another interview, which I plan to do more of, just one-on-one or two-on-one interviews with top athletes in the sport, or just people that would, I feel, be of interest to the listeners, and talk more about training and strongman. And this week is Kristen Rhodes, who's a very accomplished strong woman herself. She won America's Strongest Woman in 07, 08, 09, 2011, 12, and 13. And she won the World Championship in 2012, 2014, and 2015. And she's going to be competing at the World's Strongest Woman this weekend on the 17th of September. And you can check that out on flowelite.com. We talk about all of that and kind of how much the sport of strong woman has progressed in the 10 years or so that she's been involved. And it's, pretty cool and interesting. Something I've actually planned on doing for about a year, but just kind of getting everything together. So I hope you like it. Since bringing the podcast back, been having a lot of downloads, and I really appreciate everyone doing that. And if you go on iTunes and hit subscribe and give a 5-star rating, it's going to help more people. It's going to move it up in the ratings and help more people see this, which helps more people see strongman and strong women, and in the end helps you in a way. So let me know how you like this interview. You can follow Kristen on Instagram. It's Strongwoman Kristen Rhodes. That's KRISTIN RHODES, and she also has a Facebook fan page with the same thing. And of course, you can go to startingstrongman.com/sponsors and use the Amazon affiliate link, Rogue, and other ones. Also strength.com just signed up, and you go to strength.com/startingstrongman. They have a bunch of supplements and they're 10% off using that code, using that link. And just really helps out. Also, if you want to get a free audio book, you can go to audibletrial.com/strongman and just sign up for a free trial. You get a free audio book, free 30-day trial at Audible. When you get done listening to the podcast, you can check out some books. If you have ones that you'd recommend for me to check out, just send me a message somewhere and I'll download it. But doing that really, really helps. And just thanks for the continued support, and listen to my interview with Kristen Rhodes. Welcome to Strong Talk Podcast. This is Cale Beck. I'm joined with Kristen Rhodes, multiple-time America's Strongest Woman. I've said before, one of the most, if not the most decorated strong woman of all time. And how are you doing today?
Hello. I am doing excellent. So,
yeah.
Excited to be here. Excited to talk to you.
Yeah, well, just it's good to talk. We talked about this almost close to, I think, last December when I was down there, but I just kind of stopped doing podcasts for almost about 6 months. So trying to pick them back up, and you're one of the first. I think this will actually be the first guest I've had since I started doing them again. So of course you're headed to World's Strongest Woman. Is it next week now? It's gonna.
Yes, it's next Saturday, September 17th. It's over in the UK, being held in Doncaster at the Dome. It's being held in conjunction with the World's Strongest Man Masters competition. So that'll be pretty exciting.
Which is, of course, 40 plus. One thing I think that's interesting about it is that this is the first time that it's been the official World's Strongest Woman, where it's someone the people that actually have the rights to do it, the same company that kind of owns the rights to the World's Strongest Man competition are putting it on, where there's been past Worlds events.
Yeah, so the last official World's Strongest Woman event was held in 2003, and they discontinued it after that. And over the last, I've been competing since 2006. So 10 years. Over the past 10 years since I've been competing, it's the equivalent of World's Strongest Woman has been held. It's been called the World Strong Woman Championships. It's been held over in Poland, in the Ukraine, in Finland. We had the Arnold Strong Woman Championships, which was also kind of, considered the World's Strongest Woman type competition, but they haven't held the actual World's Strongest Woman show. It's been 13 years, so
Yeah.
it's pretty exciting. They're bringing it back, and they were able to get the rights back to World's Strongest Woman, and so they're putting it on. So it's super exciting.
Yeah, and the renewed interest in more so in the woman's side of the sport's kind of called strongman, when you could call it strong people or whatever, but there's more. It's the past couple of years the strong woman side's just grown so much, like even seems like in like the past 3 years really. So it kind of has made them say like, oh, I think we should do something with this again. And I think it's weird where, of course, like you said, there's these other contests that it was like the best women in the world, so you could say it's World's Strongest Woman, but I feel like something makes it a little bit more exciting when like, oh, this is for sure, like it's the World's Strongest Woman, and you're not kind of just trying to explain something a little easier. It's the actual contest.
Right. So for me, I've won what's the equivalent of World's Strongest Woman 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always felt kind of weird saying, yeah, I'm World's Strongest Woman, but I won the World's Strongest Woman Championships. So, I mean, was it the contest that was considered, the equivalent of? Yes, but it wasn't that official title. So I basically had kind of retired, if you want to say, after the Arnold last year. And I always told myself, like, if this show comes back, in the back of my mind, like, if they brought World's Strongest Woman back, that is the one thing that would bring me out. And January they announced it, and I started training, and here we are. It's done.
Just a couple of days away now.
Yep, we're next Saturday, so yeah, we're down 5 days away.
Yeah, it's real exciting. Of course, I'm going to be watching it on FlowElite.com, streaming it again. So if anyone else wants to watch it, they can watch it there as well. So when you got started in the sport, that you said it was in 2006. What was your athletic background before that? Because clearly you had one.
I always played sports all through growing up. I was a big soccer player. I did track and field in high school, and then in college I threw the hammer and javelin and shot put in college. And then I just kind of, after college, I didn't really do much until I found strongman. I did my first competition in August of 2006, just kind of on a whim, like, hey, you should try this. And I won, and it was just an absolute blast, and I was hooked, and I've been competing. It's been 10 years, a long time.
And of course, married to Donnie Rhodes. Was he doing strongman before you were, and you got into it first, or was it vice versa?
His first he actually was approached in the gym. He was deadlifting. He was approached by I don't know if you remember Joe Miller from the Freak Factory.
So a little before my time, I think.
Oh, was it? Okay. So they were based up out of LA. But he was approached in the gym like, hey, you're a strong deadlifter. I'm putting on a strongman competition. Would you be interested? And so they got to talking, and then Donnie ended up competing in July of 2006 at his first strongman competition. And I watched him compete, and I'm like, this is really cool. And then in August, he was going to do another show, and then that's when they had the women's division, and he kind of like, hey, you should try this, and that's kind of how that all started. So
yeah, you Donnie was approached in the gym and kind of led to you, and you saw him do it, and you couldn't let him have all the fun.
Right. I mean, he's pulling a giant monster truck. I mean, how could I not try that myself? Right?
Of course, I could do that too. You knew you were stronger than Donnie anyway, so.
Yeah. Don't tell him that though.
But do you remember kind of what the weights that you were using back then in 2006? Because the sport's advanced so much in the last 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, even if you look back to World's Strongest Woman back in 2001, 2002, 2003, their weights were so light compared to today. It's night and day. But my first competition was a log press was 110 pounds, clean and press for reps. And I believe my deadlift, I want to say, was 225 for reps. I had a 100-pound sandbag carry in the sand for max distance. I think it was like a 400-pound tire flip. And I can't remember the last event. But, I mean, it's the weights then were so light compared to today. And, every year it's just gotten heavier and heavier and heavier. And I don't think we've seen the cap of what a woman can do yet. I really don't. I mean, it's just crazy to me, like, how much everything has progressed over the last 10 years. And you want to talk about strong. When you look at Danny Schwalbe, who just did that 167-pound dumbbell press. I mean, that is insanity.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to bring up. Yeah, like yeah, 167.2 pounds. You can't leave off the point two when it was measured.
Sorry.
Yeah,
it's important.
Trying to shortchange her there. But her overhead strength is just it makes you question things like. That's pretty much why she had to put the dumbbell right on the scale afterwards, because no one would have believed it. Like,
right. And I think we haven't seen the max. We have not seen a ceiling yet for women. And I have the world record log press at 250. I guarantee you Danny's going to take that down, which is amazing. I mean, I can't wait to see her do it. So I think it's cool. I think it's really cool to see that all these women are pushing themselves, and they want to get stronger and stronger, and they want to see, what their limits are, and they want to push those limits. And I think it's really fun to watch.
No, it is fun to watch. I mean, the guys get so boring after a while. At least changes it up a little bit.
Big guys, big guy lifting heavy weight. And you got this girl come by who's lifting just as much as the guys, and that's way cooler.
Yeah, well, I feel like it's kind of expected in a way. Like, someone sees someone who looks like a Zydrunas or something, and that's a cultural norm. They're like, yeah, well, that kind of looks like the guy that, should be pulling buses and stuff. So, you're able to, you and Danny and all them, they're right up there with a lot of male competitors. I mean, I think my second or third contest, we competed against each other.
Yes, that was up in San Francisco.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was my second or third contest. I was just starting out, and I didn't have a very good day at all. But and it kind of goes with the thing where you probably did that contest just because it was so hard for you to find, strong
women shows.
Women shows at all, or let alone ones that are going to challenge you.
Correct. Yeah, because I competed lightweight that day, I believe, with you guys. Yeah, there just wasn't, my level of strength at that time was so far ahead of what a lot of the other women competitors were doing. So, I did start kind of competing with the men in some shows just because I wanted to go hit a 200-pound log, but I was never going to see that opportunity, competing with the women. So I think that day was my first 200-pound log, actually, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that was definitely, that's still a huge log in strong women now, but that was, 2008. 2008, that was unheard of.
Yeah, 2008. Yeah, so it's really exciting to see how the sport has grown, and I think Nationals has 60 or 80 women competing. I mean, that's crazy. Back in the day, we had 10. Maybe my first couple years, you'd be lucky to get between 10 and 20 women total at a show, a Nationals level show.
Throughout 2 or 3 weight classes.
There was just 2 weight classes at the time.
It was.
So
was it 150 and under or 140?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I think it was 140 and under and 141 and above.
Yeah, that's a big.
And I actually kind of pushed for years. I pushed, talking to Keon, I pushed for that split for those classes because it just wasn't fair to have 140 and under, and then you jump up to 141, and then these 141 pounders now got to compete with us 200 plus monsters. It wasn't fair. So for years I pushed you got to add some more weight classes, and I think the adding of more weight classes also brought more women in because now it was more attainable for them. It gave them kind of that middle ground that was kind of missing for a long time.
Yeah, I know they added the middleweight at one point and it was 165, but I don't think that was a big enough gap between how a lot of the strong women are built that are going to do good in the sport. If they're 5'9", 5'10", to have a good amount of muscle mass, they're going to be 180 pounds.
Exactly.
So I think.
Well, there was.
Yeah, go ahead.
When I did the world's, I did a qualifier for world's strongest woman under 75 kilo, which was under 165 pounds. And all those girls were cutting. Every single one of those girls had to cut 10 to 15 pounds just to make that weight. I think that was one of the last years that we had the 165 underweight class.
Yeah, that was the one you went there with your training partner, Jenny.
With Jenny, and then Alana Casey went as well. She ended up winning.
Yeah, but I feel like that kind of by all of them, they obviously don't want to compete at heavyweight, but I feel like they were all sitting right around 180ish as their natural weight. and it kind of, you know, it kind of stunts their strength, how much strength progress they can have if they're constantly having to not put on, you know, even another 5 pounds or anything, because, you know, but instead you can actually be at a natural weight and keep progressing because you're actually eating in a surplus. But yeah, having to make 165, or the first year at the Arnold, I think it was 150. And even you had like some of the strong women, like Maya she cut a ton of weight to get down there. You know, she probably, you know, now she did it because she did it over years, but she probably would have, you know, been fine sitting around, you know, 170, 175 or so, like natural weight, and stronger overall. But yeah, I think you saw the strength once they changed the weight classes again and made it, you know, 140 lightweight, then 180 middleweight. It really, you know, you see like the girls like Danny and Kimberly and stuff, like they've gotten so much stronger.
Yep.
Really, Lawrence.
Yeah, that was definitely a good move by Strongman Corporation to add that middleweight class. That was huge.
Yeah.
I think that brought in a lot more women to the sport, honestly. That was a really good move.
Yeah, because there's a weird perception if like people feel like they're gonna have to compete, you know, if they're around like the 190 like a range, if they're gonna have to compete with, you know, they have it in their head, even if they could, it's just that perception.
Right.
Help.
And I mean, let's be honest, most of the heavyweights I think most of them are 220 plus. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of them that are even sitting around 200. I think Christy Scott was an exception. She was around 200. There might have been one more, but I mean, over the years, I mean, most heavyweight women were probably, you know, over somewhere in that range. They definitely weren't near 180.
Sure. Yeah, so. It matches up well with, like, I think powerlifting's 181 plus, and I think that's what heavyweight is in weightlifting as well. I think it's 181 plus. Like then it goes to super, which I feel like, yeah, they're all about there. So it matches up really well, and you can see how well it's worked out for the sport. But when was the first time you went to nationals? What year was that?
I won my first national. Well, I went to nationals in 2006. So when I won my first show, I went to nationals 6 weeks later. And I ended up getting second my first year, and then I was obviously hungry for more. I wanted to win. So I went back in 2007, so that was the first nationals that I won, was 2007.
Okay. Yeah, so just 6 weeks, pretty much, you know, a couple months into training at all, even knowing it exists, you get second place.
Yes. And had I loaded the 220 stone, which I had never picked up before, I would have won nationals that first year. Like, that's all that separated me from winning.
Yeah, and I'm sure it was close.
I didn't know how to pick it up. I mean, I had never done a stone that heavy, and I just, you know, so.
Well, you'd only been doing
it. I knew how to do it.
You had, like, you know, 3 training sessions before it, so.
Right.
and then if I remember right, it was the first nationals I did was in Reno. I think that was 2010, was the first year that the men and women's nationals was together.
Correct.
Pretty sure.
Yes. Yeah, that was 2000. Actually, that was 2010. Yeah. Yeah, that was the first year. I lost that year. I lost by half a point. It was heartbreaking.
I remember watching that. That was a weird. I don't think it was quite figured out, because they're like, okay, well, it'd be nice if everyone can, you know, because, you know, you and your husband compete. So you have to go to a nationals. You have to go to nationals. I think there was a big push to kind of keep it together, because there's a lot of, you know, similar situations like that. Or even if, you know, they're not couples, they train together or whatever. And we all know how expensive traveling and competing is, but we do it anyways for some reason.
Because it's fun.
Yeah, most of the time. but yeah,
that was the first year that it was together. I mean, together in the same location, but not running at the same time. But that was the first year, and it just kind of progressed from there.
Right. That's what I was trying to. That's what I was trying to get at. Is it wasn't ran together like it is now, where it's like, okay, women then men. It's like, all right, well, we have to do them after. And I remember the guys, we had a 2-day contest, and you, I think, just did it the first day that night. So you started at what, like 4 or 5 p.m. in Reno?
No, we started at 7 p.m.
Oh.
in the freezing cold. It was 30 degrees outside.
Yeah,
It was awful.
Yeah, I don't.
Absolutely awful conditions.
I don't.
It was horrible.
I remember coming back down and going, I don't know why I just came back down for like I'm standing there and it was horrible and
it was dark. There was like no lights in the parking lot.
Yeah.
So it was great that we were together, but the conditions and the lighting and the freezing cold and it was brutal.
Yeah.
So.
I remember I drove over the pass from California to go to Reno, and there's still like pretty much snow on the ground at that time, and then it
snowed on us. It was snowing on us.
Yeah, and it was let's start them at 7 p.m. in the in Reno in October.
I was so miserable. But
those are the memories that you're like you think back and they kind of make it worth it in a way because you're like why did I do this? Like at 7 p.m. I remember that the Stones were the last event, and I just some of the women were just like shivering and. They couldn't get tacky to work because it was by the time Stones happened. What time was it? Like 9 past 9.
It was like 9:30. Yeah, it was like 9:30 or 10 at night. Yeah, it was pretty late.
Yeah. So, but that was it was one of the coolest moments I've seen in the sport, just because you were so competitive. Of course, I know how competitive you are, so I'm sure it's not one of your favorite moments, but you what was the other one's name? I remember it was like the one time
the girl that beat me?
Yeah.
Melissa.
Yeah, Melissa. And she was like really tall. And I think had a powerlifting background from Florida, right?
Yeah, she was like 6'3" or something. She was really tall.
Yeah, you kind of split events the whole way. She'd get one, you'd get one.
Well, I lost the truck pull by 0.13. I'll never forget that. So I'm like, how are you timing that? Oh, the center of the hubcap. Okay.
Sure.
So, whatever. In the dark. Okay. And then
shivering hands.
I had the winning stone on the bar and the whistle blew, but because my hand was still on it, they wouldn't give it to me. So that was one of those heartbreaking moments when you're like, well, there's nothing you can do about it now,
No. Yeah, that's what I remember. It was you were doing stones pretty much at the synchronized, and then it was she got hers, it landed over, and then they're like, nope, that one, it was just like tenths of a second. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. But I had just hurt my back 6 weeks before that, and I probably shouldn't have competed, but my pride wouldn't let me not compete. So I learned that lesson real quick.
Sure.
When you're hurt, and sometimes you gotta don't let your pride, make you do things you shouldn't be doing. But I rested after that, and I learned from that, and I came back stronger, and I'm still here competing. So
here we are. Yeah. Then after that, you strung a couple in a row together, and
2011, 12, and 13 nationals. I won 3 more in a row after that.
And then there's the first Arnold World Championship that they introduced. I think the first year just had lightweights, and then the second year it was lightweight and heavyweight.
Yeah, exactly. So I won the Arnold in 2014 and 2015, and I did not compete this year.
Yeah, you decided. I know you were itching. You're thinking about it.
Yeah, I thought about it, but I thought about it like beginning of January, and trying to give myself 8 weeks to get ready just wasn't realistic.
Sure.
So,
And that's something I think it's important for people when they're getting into the sport, and I was talking about, because people ask me what I'd do differently, is let me learn later is that there's always another contest.
Yes.
Yeah, it seems it seems.
I'll be honest, for me, sorry, not to cut you off, but for me, I think a lot of people, and I'm not trying to sound arrogant, I'm not trying to sound anything, but a lot of people want to beat me. I've always had this black mark on my back, like, I want to beat her, and I just realized that I wasn't going to put myself in a position, and that was kind of the lesson I kind of gave myself, was I'm not going to go into a show and not be ready. I'm not going to put myself in a position to lose. So if I'm not feeling completely 100% ready, I'm just not going to do the show. And like you said, there's always another show, and that was the Arnold 2016 this year. I was like, laughing at myself. You think you're going to be ready in 8 weeks and go in and win? Like, yeah, you're crazy. Like, I just had to kind of give myself a reality check. and kind of let my pride be like, you know what, no, you got to step away from this one. So it's just, there's always another show, and sometimes you just got to be really smart about your choices and think about what you're doing, and just make sure it's the right choice for you personally. And that's something I've had to learn over the last several years.
For sure, yeah. That's the sign of being a veteran in the sport, is you know when it's the time to go, and when it's the time to hold back. And I think that's kind of like what Zydrunas did, not going to Worlds this year. And he still competed at a different show, but it's not the same thing. Like, he got smoked at Worlds or whatever. It's no one really, other than like a couple people, really care if he got second at the Arnold Asia, and he still made a couple bucks and it was fine. But he knows in order to do that, you need to be 100%, and there's big consequences on as a competitor, and if you're still perceived the same way if you don't perform at a big show like that.
Correct.
And
exactly.
Even if they're just personal.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, it's personal because I don't like to lose. I mean, I don't compete to lose. So if I'm not ready, I'm not going to go. And I know a lot of people, Paul, I'll bring this up because I'm sure people want to know why I did not compete at Strongest Woman in the World 3 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a very, very, very hard choice for me because I love competing and I really wanted to be there, but I just knew I had to kind of give myself one of those talks, and I knew usually when I do a show, I go 110%, and I'll tweak something or hurt something, and I just wasn't willing to take the risk that I was going to go to that show and get hurt and not be able to go after the title of World's Strongest Woman, because that's all I've wanted since I started competing, and I just had to tell myself, like, look, you have to pick one, and you have to pick the one that you want the most, and, that's kind of the decision that I had to make, and it was a really hard phone call to make, and let Dion know that I wasn't competing because I really wanted to be there. But, sometimes you just have to make those choices, and that was the choice that I had to make. So there you go.
There it is. Yeah, I imagine that, that was tough. And especially, there's big monetary incentive to go there. And, you want to support the show that, Strongman Corporation and Dion's putting on with that, because it's awesome what they're doing. But,
absolutely,
there's, you kind of, if you pick two shows like that close together, most of the time you're going to sacrifice the performance at both.
Right, or at one, and
at least one,
One, because if I had gone to Florida and gotten hurt and not been able to compete at World's Strongest Woman, I would have been really upset with myself, because let's be honest, that's why I came back in January. That's why I said, you know what, I'm going to do this again. And it's just sometimes you just have to make choices, and that was the choice that I made that I felt was the best for me. So.
Yeah, I think it's the right choice. I'm excited to watch it, and we'll get to see the matchup with you and Donna Moore. I think the one that everyone's talking about. She, of course, won the Arnold Amateur this year, and she's looking good. And I think it's going to be. And, there's a whole. You sent me the competitors list. There's 13 or so women competing.
There's 15 of us now, yeah. Well, Donna Moore's definitely, the competitor that I've been keeping my eyes on, and also the girls from the Ukraine are pretty good. You've got, I don't know how you say your name, I'm going to mess it up, Ubeifa Ingles from the U.S. She's strong, she's fast, and she's definitely a solid competitor. So, you've got, I think there's quite a few girls that, it's going to be a good show. There's a lot of girls that are really strong, and everyone has their strengths, and I think it's going to be a really good show. The hiking press is 255 pounds. There has never in 10 years been a press that heavy in a show, ever. It's gonna be crazy.
It's pretty heavy. Yeah, I think we have a couple events, and then the yokes, no joke either. It's close to 600 pounds. The whole show is heavy. What's the final stone in the series?
308. So
Okay.
I'm not sure if it's 4 or 5 stones, but it starts at 220 and goes up to 308.
So 308.
So there's never been a stone that heavy in a stone series for women ever. In a show.
For sure, One that's not been completed.
Right.
It might have been sitting at the end there, but no one got to it. Maybe, but I think it's exciting. It's groundbreaking. I'm glad that World's Strongest Woman's back, and to see you there, I know it means a lot to you, and I appreciate you taking the time. Anyone you want to mention before? I know you're trained by Mike Westerling, who I hold in high regard and stuff like that. Before we end here.
Yeah, Mike Westerling. After I mentioned that I had lost in 2010, and right after that, I hired him to bring me back from my back injury, and I've been working with him for the last 5 years. He's definitely my voice of reason. My little Jiminy Cricket. When I say I should do this, he's like, nope, you probably shouldn't. So he's kind of kept me on the right path. And obviously I want to thank my husband for being there with me, along the way for every bit of this ride. And he trains with me and gets me out there and does all of that. And I have a great training crew behind me, and I'm just so thankful for all the support I've gotten from everybody. And I really just look forward to next weekend and hopefully bring that title of World's Strongest Woman back to the U.S. It'd be nice. It'd be nice to bring it back. So I'm excited.
Yeah.
Very excited.
I'm excited to see you do it as well, and I have no doubt that I think it's hard to pick anyone else to do it. Of course, anyone can have a good day, but that's why we're having you on. Plus, the whole time change and everything, and you can of course also follow Kristen Rhodes on it's Strong Woman Kristen Rhodes on
Strong Woman Kristen Rhodes on Instagram, and then I'm on Facebook. Just Kristen Rhodes Strong Woman. I'll post updates and everything on there. You can follow me on there, and then obviously it's going to be on live on FlowElite.com.
Sounds good, and I'll of course send the information out there on starting strongman and everything, and good luck next weekend or this weekend.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so soon. Thank you so much for having me on, and I look forward to it. And Strong Woman's growing, and it's super exciting. And I mean, this is just great. So thank you, Cale. I appreciate everything.
Yeah, thank you, and safe travels on your way to England.
All right, thanks. Talk to you later.